Helen Whately, how do you respond to the events at Glastonbury yesterday?
Oh, and I was shocked to see some of the footage of that chanting of the crowd and the music artist, should we say, sort of ramping it up. I mean, to me, also one of the horrible things about it is, what was it, just over a year and a half ago, that innocent festival goers at a festival in Israel were raped and murdered by Hamas. And then we have a music festival here in the UK where you have a chant saying death to the Israeli armed forces who are, taking action to protect people from what Hamas did in Israel. I just think it's disgusting.
Would you expect there to be some legal action against the performers?
Well, I think there should be some sort of action, and clearly I think the police are looking into it as to the extent to which an offence has been committed. But I just think it's an awful thing to see that happening in our country.
Should the BBC have pulled it? Should they have cut the live feed? They're not going to rebroadcast it.
Yeah, I think the BBC... I mean, I think if you were in the BBC and seeing that you were broadcasting that to the nation, that can't be the right thing. I mean, yes, I believe in free speech, but that was incitement to violence. It was incitement to kill. Now, that is not something that we support in this country. And, yeah, I think the BBC should have shifted to something else.
The other side of this, of course, is not just what was happening on stage, but what's happening on the audience. The Israeli embassy this morning issued a statement essentially saying that we have to ask questions about the festival goers and their response to it. What does it tell us about where the debate and opinions about what's happening in the Middle East has got to, that this can happen and provoke that response?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the crowd at Glastonbury is necessarily representative of the mood of the whole country. And of course, I understand, I feel it when you see civilians being killed in Gaza and children and babies. It's awful to see that. But we have to remember that that's happening because of Hamas and what they did, and the fact that Hamas uses people as human shields and has still got hostages there. And is it that the crowd in Glastonbury forgot that? Because that is the context to this, and that we have to make sure we're still talking about this, talking about that, and yeah, I mean, I hate saying that the whole crowd joined in that chant.
Let's talk about the events that are coming into Parliament this week, the Welfare Reform Bill. Your leader asked Keir Starmer to agree to a series of demands, including committing to no tax rises, which she knows he's never going to do. So let's get past that and really tackle the question head on. When the vote takes place, I assume the Conservatives will vote no.
Well, if I can take a step back a moment on welfare, and clearly I spend a lot of my time thinking about this as the Shadow Secretary of State. The welfare system is not working. That is no secret. Let's be straight talking about that. We've now got around 3,000 people...
And of course, there were some people who were in government for 14 years who may not have noticed it wasn't working.
Well, of course we did, and between 2010 and the pandemic, we brought down the number of people claiming unemployment benefit. Unemployment went down. We brought down the bill overall. Yes, I will acknowledge that as we came through the pandemic, through to the general election, the number of people claiming sickness benefits started going up. That bit of the system isn't working. We had a set of reforms in progress, which the Labour government has either cancelled or delayed, and I can go through that if we have time.
We don't.
But where we are now...
Okay, so where are you going to vote for it or not?
Well, OK, well, just one thing at a time. So where we are now, system's not working. We need the bill brought down. And we need more people to be back in work. 3,000 people a day signing on to sickness benefits and potentially a life on benefits rather than a life in work. The government has to take action on that. The problem with what we had before us, which has been the cause of the latest U-turn from Labour, is, it's not nearly enough. It was £5 billion in savings. Now it's more like £2 billion off a bill that's going up to £100 billion by the end of this decade.
You're telling me almost everything you think about this, except whether you're going to vote for the bill or not.
Look, we're expecting to see a statement from the Secretary of State tomorrow. We'll see actually what she sets out in it. We have said that if there are more savings that actually bring the welfare bill down, if they'll get more people into work and if they're committed to using those savings to avoid tax cuts in the autumn, which looks highly likely at the moment, then they have our support.
You absolutely know they're not going to do particularly the third. So will you vote for it or not?
I'd say let's see what they do. I mean, they've done this U-turn, they've done a huge concession to the rebels, but actually what I'm hearing is actually there are still a lot of Labour MPs who are very unhappy with this. So the jury's out what will happen on Tuesday still.
All right. One of the issues that I think has always been important to Conservatives is the question of, if you like, freedom of action of the individual and so on. Now, we're hearing this morning from the Secretary of State for Health that he plans to work with supermarkets to prevent us, frankly me, from buying or having 100 calories a day. Now, what do you make of that?
Well, what do I make? I mean, I worked in healthcare for years before I became an MP, and I was a health minister as well. And I know that we have a challenge with obesity and how healthy or unhealthy our diets are. But my reaction to what the Health Secretary was talking about this morning is, they had 14 years in opposition to think about what they wanted to do about the NHS. They've had a year in government, and the Health Secretary is briefing out their 10-year plan for the NHS. And the number one thing in it seems to be hide the crisps. I mean, to me, it's obviously the nanny state, but it's also not what people want for the NHS. People want to hear how they're going to get to see their GP, how they're going to know that if they go to A&E, they're going to get treated, and we get hide the crisps.
But to be fair to him, he can walk and chew gum at the same time. What do you think about the specific thing he's saying, which is that he's going to work with the retailers to reduce the amount of calories that we can buy? Do you think that is a legitimate thing for a government to do? And if so, a positive thing for a government to do?
So I think it's fine for a government to talk to supermarkets about how they can offer healthy food in their stores, because most of us buy most of our food in supermarkets. But telling people what to buy, I think, is not up to government. I believe in personal responsibility.
He's trying to encourage better behaviour, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but you can't. I mean, as I say, telling people what to buy isn't what I would think we should do. What I think the government should be looking at is things like, for instance, sport in schools, where we're seeing the funding cut to primary schools. I'm hearing from my local schools that they're having to cut back on things like sport and making sure that we're growing healthy food and drink in this country. As a Kent MP, I represent fruit growers, and they're going, what's the family farm tax? If I may say so,
on the two things I've talked to you about, it's not entirely clear where the Conservative Party stands, and perhaps this is one reason why right now the Conservative Party isn't quite where most people think it ought to be in the polls. Prime Minister, in his speech to the Labour Party yesterday in Wales, devoted more by a distance, more time to attacking reform than to the Tories. And perhaps this is the reason. If you have a look at where you stand on the polls now, we will see that the Reform Party is well ahead of everybody else, and the Conservative Party is gradually coasting down the hill. Now, the problem is we don't know what the Badenoch Tories stand for now.
Well, so there's various things, and I know it's hard for me to see the polls as a Conservative, but I also know that it was a year ago that we had a general election when we had the public gave us a very strong message that they were angry with us in government, and we have to take the time to listen to that and reflect and come up with the right answers for the country. And that is what we're spending time doing. And Kemi Badenoch, as our new leader, has said we are going to think hard and come up with the right answers and do that based on principles.
You're spending time in a seminar about policy. Mr. Nigel Farage is spending his time going about shaking hands and attracting votes and ending up with the graph that we just saw. And by the way, when it's translated into seats by the latest research, says that actually he's most likely to be the next Prime Minister. This is an extinction-level event for the Conservative Party.
These are serious times, and I think anyone who puts themselves forward to try and be in government after the next election needs to think seriously hard about what the answers are for our country. What I see Nigel Farage doing is going out there and just making promises, which he's actually then recently said he's not actually going to make any commitments about anything. But what he's going out there is completely irresponsible. For instance, he announced that he wants to expand the benefit state just when we need benefits brought under control by getting rid of the 2-child cap. He's got 80 billion of unfunded tax cuts. His policy announcement on non-doms the other day. I mean, it's the last thing that the country needs, and our job is to do the hard work, do the hard thinking, and make the case for why we are the right answer for the country in the future.
Helen Whately, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.